Okay, hi guys. So today we have Kayla from the Morning Brew podcast. I'll start off, met her at a show actually. So I love going to concerts, so does Kayla, of course. And we both were talking to one of the artists in the band that we like, and she handed me a little card, a business card for her podcast, and she basically just interviews a bunch of different artists and she does it on the spot right there and then. When I met her, that's exactly what she did with that artist. So she just went up to him, started talking to him, and was like, "Hey, can I interview you tomorrow?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." So, yeah, she's just really great at that. And I think she's going to really be able to bring that to the table here with us today, talk about how she's able to get those interactions with different artists. She's been doing music videos recently too. She's been, doing all that stuff. So I'm really excited to hear from her. I'm sure you guys are too. I'll go ahead and give it to her. Hey, Kayla.
Hi, I'm Kayla. I'm so excited to talk to you guys today. Thank you, Raquel, for bringing me in. I am a professional concert goer, as Raquel has mentioned. I also enjoy doing distance running with my best friends in my free time. I'm an artist and a cat mom. I do a lot of spray paint art, sculptures, and stuff like that. I don't like to sit still, which is something you may notice eventually throughout this presentation. So, why am I here today? It is because in 2019, I had an idea that I decided to make a reality with a little bit of changes here and there. So, this is a screenshot of an email I sent to myself on April 13th of 2019 that says, "Reminder, I want to make a podcast called The Morning Brew." And at the time, the idea was that I would just like gossip about stuff. And that's not entirely what I do today. So there's a little bit of changes here. But I am the host and creator of the Morning Brew podcast. I interview a bunch of different creatives. It's a lot of musicians, but not exclusively musicians. I like to bring authentic conversations to my listeners. I like to give music recommendations and get the experience behind the art and hopefully make a safe space for the artist to maybe talk about things that they don't feel comfortable putting in like mainstream media and press like that. I talk to people globally, but I do like to spotlight local artists here in Texas and sort of bring engagement from my friends and the other musicians that I connect with. And yeah, that's basically what I do with my show. How is the content created? Let's take a deep dive into the process. So this is my equipment. Basically, it's just like microphones, a notebook, and a light if I am doing something virtual. I really like these DJI mics because they're portable, they're like easy to take around. You can plug them into cameras or into headphones and monitor the audio in real time. And they're just like super easy to use, and I really enjoy them. I also will say I have a man in the chair who is my friend Diego, and he is my audio engineer. So I send Diego all of the raw audio files that I have. And as Raquel mentioned, I've done these like in the streets. I've done them at like coffee shops. I did one at a nightclub. And so he basically will clean the audio so that it's pleasant to listen to. And he'll remove like car noises or dogs barking or like tapping of pens. And he'll send them back to me for the actual editing. And so the software that I've been using is called Riverside FM. And I have the cheapest tier of the subscription because it covers all the tools that I would need. It works very similar to Zoom, but it records audio and video locally so that it records in better quality. The pros for me are that you could set up a different virtual studio for each project. So it's like a little room for each interview that I do. Again, it records locally, so even if the connection when you're talking is a little bit iffy, when you look at the actual recording, it's still super high quality and it's really cool. And it's also pretty straightforward to use. The cons that I will say is that it does cost money and it's a little bit finicky about browsers. So I always have to specify it has to be on like a Chrome browser with Wi-Fi. It doesn't like mobile. So this is a little glimpse of what it looks like inside one of my editing studios. And this is a clip from the interview I did with the band Attaboy. And so you can see in blue is my intro, in yellow is the outro, and then I've got a bunch of segmented little clips that I have already done edits in this photo. There is a tracks option, so you can adjust the volume of each person's individual audio. So if, for example, I'm like screaming for some reason and they're like holding their microphone super far away and they're really quiet, you can adjust that after the fact and make it sound like we're at the same level. There's actual tracks for like scrubbing and clipping and editing. The little grayed out areas in the middle are words like or like that I've removed so that it flows better for the listener. There's also a transcript that's not always accurate, but it's easier to help you when you're editing to find a place that you remember in the conversation. And then if you record with video, it does show you the video in the moment. So you're kind of editing audio and video at the same time individually, which is really cool. And then for distribution, I do everything almost exclusively through Spotify for Creators. So it pairs with Riverside directly and will automatically post to Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And then it gives you an RSS feed, which I like just learned about a couple months ago. And you can plug this feed link into anywhere else. So I now have this on YouTube, on iHeart, and Amazon Music, and it makes it so you only post once on the one platform, and then it distributes to a bunch of different places super easily at the same time. And as I mentioned, I've used the RSS feed to kind of expand the reach, but now I'm trying to utilize a bunch of different platforms. I realize that not everybody maybe has a Spotify account, not everybody has an iPhone. So this is just a breakdown of the stats that I have received from the app that tells me the percentages of people using Spotify, Amazon, Apple, so on and so forth. Raquel asked me to mention what determines success and how do you brand yourself? And in my opinion, I think it's different for everybody. And this might be a hot take, but here are my thoughts. I think that success is very subjective. There's obviously statistics like views, plays, followers, how many, likes you have. But to some people, it could be the guests that you're booking. Are you booking somebody that is a role model to you specifically? Like, is it the interaction with that person that you value, or are you wanting to have like 5 million likes? So in my opinion, your own personal goal determines how you would gauge your success based on what you're looking for. And so I find that branding sort of ties in a little bit with success metrics. So I'm going to expose myself here. So on the left, this is my original cover art for the podcast. When I first started in 2021, this cover art was made on Snapchat because I don't pay for Photoshop. There's 3 different fonts. I don't know what I was thinking. There was no direction in terms of the actual episodes. It was kind of, I want to talk about this with a friend. And it was a regular posting like every couple of months. And there were maybe 3 to 10 listeners average. And one of them was definitely my grandma and one of them was my uncle. So this last year in January, I decided to start a rebrand. And so this cover was professionally shot by a good friend of mine. I have set the goal to post every other Friday this year to try and get the regularity for my audience. I have my mission statement, if you will, about interviewing different creatives. I post on multiple platforms, and I've started to slowly incorporate video, which I've found has been helping me quite a bit. So these are my stats of followers on Spotify only for the rebrand. And so you can see that these are hovering below 30 for a total of 3 to 4 years. At the end of my 3rd year podcasting, I had a maximum of 34 followers, which is crazy. But in the 10 months since I've done the rebrand, I have hit 146 on just Spotify, which is still small, but that's way more than 30. So I found that posting regularly and having a theme really has helped me in getting a little bit more success in terms of the statistics. And so the final takeaways and tips that nobody asked for, but I like to give. My motivational piece of advice, it's not always easy. I've gotten so many no's from people. I've been told you're an independent, we don't talk to independent sources, you're not credible enough, you don't have enough followers, your show is too small, you're not backed by an editorial or a company. And I wrote down these manifestations at the beginning of this year that was to interview like at least 3 celebrities on the podcast, will have grown the following by, a little bit by producing better content that I'm proud of putting out. And it is really hard. Like, I'm not going to minimize the fact that some days I feel so beat down and just sending out so many emails to get a bunch of no's. However, if the thing would let me move the thing, but don't give up, because this year I feel like I've done so many things that young Kayla would never have thought that I would have gotten to do. And the few big wins really, really, really outweigh the multiple scattered no's. So if you have a passion or a goal or a dream, even if it seems very like out there, I highly encourage you not to give up, and to just push through, because if you put the time and effort into perfecting your craft, I really do think that it will work out in your favor. So thank you. If you feel so inclined as to follow, that's the QR code, but you don't have to.
Yay!
Yay! You go, Kayla.
What kind of concerts do you like to attend, or is there like a wide range or genre?
Sorry, can you say that one more time?
What kind of concerts or like genre do you like to attend or go to?
My internet hates me today. I heard concerts, and
What kind? Like what kind?
The concert I met Raquel at was for this band Kelsey Carter and the Heroines, and we met at a record shop where they were doing a little show, and I interviewed the guitarist.
This was him, Mr. P.
Yeah, Matt Peach, everybody. He's really cool. You should go follow him.
Very sweet guy.
Yeah, I interviewed him at the record shop, and we finished the interview the next day on the streets of downtown Austin. But now I see the question. Okay, the genre, kind of anything. I go to a lot of like alternative rock shows, but I also do a lot of indie and a lot of other like what I would describe as like soft sad girl music. So really anything. How much were the DJI mics? I think I paid $250 for those on Amazon. So I had to save up for a while to get them. But I will say, I really think it was worth it. It's in a box that's like this small, and it charges while it's in the thing, like kind of like AirPods. So they're always like charged. And it comes with the little muffler that you can like take on or off depending on where you are. And there's a magnet and a clip to attach to yourself or to someone else. And yeah, I think they're really cool and they're very good quality. The production process. So my guy in the chair, he uses Adobe Pro, and he like knows how to use it and has, I think he has access to it through his work. But I don't have that, or I don't know how to use it. So he uses the Adobe Pro for me, and then I use Riverside or Audacity to tweak the things that I do know how to fix.
Do you have any monetizations or sponsorships or is that that's what your goal is for the end of this year, is to try to get that?
Yeah, so I'm working on it right now. My day job got really busy in the summer, and so I haven't had the downtime to actually like properly look into it yet, but I am slowly trying to work that in.
Where did you take or get your photo ideas for your rebrand? Was that just something your friend helped you with?
So my friend is a photographer, and I gave her some ideas, and I said, I'm kind of thinking I want it to be like a little bit fun, a little bit professional, and I would really like to put all of my stupid mugs in it. And I made sure the one with Nicolas Cage is in there because I think he's so funny. Um, so yeah, she kind of took my idea and ran with it, and we tried out a couple different poses and different things, but that's ultimately the one that we settled on. How do I prep for interviews? I use that handy dandy notebook that I had a photo of. I do a lot of research before, obviously before the ones that are not on the spot. So I will listen to, if it's a musician, I'll listen to like some of their albums, and I will like do some research on them as a person. And I don't like to ask the basic questions. So if it's someone that's, like superhero, you don't want to ask like, oh, what superpower would you have? Because like everyone is going to ask that, right? So I try to have a couple questions based on like a title of their song. So I'll like take it and I'll just run with it as far as I can go. And yeah, I'll have some serious questions in there as well. I really like to take a moment to ask the whoever I'm interviewing what is something that they're proud of they've recently accomplished. And I ask a lot of them this because you'd be surprised how many people are like, oh, gosh, I don't know. Like I've never thought about that. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so successful. Like, what do you mean? And they really do to appreciate the space to kind of reflect on something that they've accomplished. And another question that I do is do this thing called Artist Ask Artist. So the first guest of the year asked a question for the next one, and then so on and so forth. They just keep asking each other questions. And I do that partially because it's fun, but also because I'm slowly trying to connect the artists with each other so that they can help each other out. Creatives got to stick together, I feel.
That's cool. I like that question idea of like, what do you want to ask the next person that comes on? That's really, I like that.
They get kind of like so chaotic, but because some of them stick to the theme of like, what do you enjoy most about the creative process? And some of them are like, if you were a frog, we'd do.
Yeah.
It's really interesting though to see what people answer.
What made you want to interview like performers or like people at concerts and stuff like that? Like what kind of like sparked that? Because I know you mentioned it in the beginning, but like what was it?
I've always wanted to do like work in the entertainment industry. I used to want to be like a film director and stuff like that, but I ended up picking a degree for business because it was versatile and like probably the smart choice or whatever. But you know, I still want to dabble in the things that I enjoy in my free time. And, going to so many concerts, you meet so many fun people like Raquel and like Matt Peach. And I find that I just kind of have like weird questions for people like at any given time. And so at a certain point, I was like, well, I guess if I had a platform, then I have a reason to ask these weird questions that just sit in my head rent free. They're kind of like the shower thoughts, if you will, that I now allowed to ask in the appropriate setting. Yeah, I just think it's so cool. And then as like artist myself, I'm always interested in what other people's creative process looks like. And so especially when it's like a musician or a filmmaker or somebody doing a medium of creation that I'm not familiar with, I really enjoy picking their brain about why they got into it and what do they love about it and what stresses them out about it and, why do they do what they do, I guess.
That's interesting. I like that. That was my question, guys.
I was going to ask, how many hours do you think you spend working on your show?
Oh gosh. But I'll probably take at least hour to 2 hours of prep time for just writing the questions. I probably spend a good like hour or so a week sending out emails to people asking if they'd want to come on. And interviews themselves are about 30 minutes to an hour. And then the editing could be anywhere from like 3 to 6 hours for an episode, depending on Like some people, the conversation flows so naturally, but some people I ask like, why are you a singer? And they're like, well, it all started when I was born, and they'll go off for like 30 minutes. I have to find the places where to like cut that it doesn't sound awkward. So it's a lot of time, but I find that time flies when I'm working on it. I'll often sit down and then I blink and it's like 11 p.m.
I find that too. I wanted to mention the mobile app for Riverside because I've used Riverside for years too. I had a guest use the Riverside mobile app and I haven't done it since. Their phone overheated. Like it literally overheated. And it wasn't like a super old phone, but it literally overheated. So I think it's good to recommend people to just use their Chrome browser.
I know that's my go-to. I've had so many mishaps with Riverside where I've just been embarrassed. So I'm like, oh man, like they're gonna think I'm unprofessional, but I'm too cheap to pay for the expensive tier of the platform. So I'm just like, please make sure you use a Chrome web browser and have Wi-Fi, please.
Some of your like go-to spots for concerts in Austin.
Ooh, I really like this venue called Emo's Austin.
Yeah.
The Empire Garage is really cool. Stubbs is really cool. There's one that I take my brother to a lot called the Scoot Inn, and it's like a half outdoor, half indoor, pretty small venue. And I took him to see Neon Trees there. Like, I was kind of surprised they were playing there because it's a small venue for someone with like kind of popular songs, but it's such an intimate venue that if you're seeing a band there, like if you get there like 30 minutes early, you'll probably be in the front row. And I think that's really cool.
That's cool.
I don't do a ton of arena shows very often, so I really enjoy the like more intimate venues.
Yeah, for sure. My friends play in Austin a lot, and they used to way back in the day too. And so, like Emo's was one of the places when they first like would go to and all that stuff. So it's that's kind of cool.
Emo's is a classic.
Yeah, very classic. Very classic. When you said, I was like, oh yeah,
That's the good one.
So a lot of us, like, we're in school and we're probably working and stuff. And I think a lot of us feel really intimidated when we have like that kind of idea that we want to get started and we have trouble like balancing everything. And I know you said you have like a full-time job outside of this and you're going to these shows. Like, how do you balance all of this stuff?
I'm not gonna pretend like I know what I'm doing. I've had to do a thing now where I'll set a timer for myself so I don't get like lost in the sauce. So I'll let myself do one task for like an hour. And then when the timer goes off, I have to switch to the next thing so that I have time to do everything that I need to do in my day. So I use a lot of like the weekends. I don't go out much. I'm kind of like I'm a big introvert actually. So I'll use the weekends to edit, and then most of the concerts are after work hours unless I am camping out for something and I have to use my PTO, but that's rare. But yeah, I think finding little pockets, and you mentioned being like intimidated by the big ideas. I think that that's a good thing. I heard recently someone say that pressure is privilege. So to be able to feel the pressure of doing something that you enjoy, I find is a more fun pressure than, let's say, like the stress of sending a work email. So I'm making the conscious decision to a little bit stressed but still excited about doing podcast or whatever side project I'm working on. And so I think as long as you're still enjoying what you're doing and you're doing it like for you, I think it's totally worth making the jump. And I had that idea in like 2019. I didn't act on it until 21. I only got kind of like better quality this year in 2025. So it's a long process sometimes, but I'm betting on all of you. I think you should do it. Whatever the crazy idea is, I'm a big fan of just do it. I'm an enabler.
Wait, so when you like, do you usually go up to them after the show? Just because like, so my best friend dragged me to I think the band was called Quarters of Change, and I know they were there like at the merch line, so it was easier to talk to them. But a lot of performers don't just like go out like that. Like they don't just, do you approach them or do you approach like if they have like a manager there? Like, how does that work? Like, how do you do that?
It kind of changes depending on the person. So in the case of Matt Peach, where I just approached him on the streets, that was kind of like a one-time thing, and I didn't think it was gonna work. So we had seen him at like a proper show before. Just mentioned like, hey, I have a podcast, like, haha, would love to have you on sometime. And he's like, actually, I'd love to, like, are you coming tomorrow? And I was like, yes, I am. Yes. And so we did like part of it there, and then got cut short because they don't have a ton of time, especially on the road. And so we finished it in the street the next night. So I usually will try to find an email or a contact somewhere for like a management team or their press team, or some of them just, if they're like enough, they'll just put their email in like their Instagram bio, you know? And you'd probably be surprised how many people will actually like respond. And even if it's a no, it's like, oh, actually check that email. I thought it was like a joke kind of. So like one example is, I don't know if you guys know the artist Barnes Courtney who sings Golden Dandelions, but pretty big, and he has an email in his Instagram bio. And I'm like, he's not gonna see this. And I sent him an email. He responded like the next day. But this man's like severely ADHD and like unmedicated, so he's like so hard to get a hold of. But like he looks at it, I guess. So but I do try to find like an email for a management person, because most likely if you're approaching them on the street like after a show, they're either like tired or they're getting to the next stop, and like they're probably not gonna have time realistically. But hey, shoot your shot. I mean, like, it might work.
Cool. Yes.
Crazy.
I did address the question of what made you want to start a podcast.
Ooh, the truth. Do you want like the do you want the tea? The real answer is, so I don't remember why I wanted to make one when I sent that email to myself in 2019. I don't remember that at all. But in 2021, when I actually acted on it, family had just moved us to Texas from the Bay Area. And this was the first time that I was living back at home since I had left for college, because this is like during the pandemic, you know? And I was getting so frustrated. So half of it was really wanted a platform where my dad and my brother couldn't speak for me, because I'm like, this is my show. I get to say what I want, and you can't anything for me. But the other half was, I have like this severe rational fear that my friends are going to forget about me. And so it was kind of like, hey, I wanted to record for the podcast. Like, you think we could call for like an hour and just talk about dumb stuff? And so the majority of it was like calls with my two best friends, Brie and Sarah. And we're just, you know, talking like we were when we were hanging out. But it was kind of like I don't think I ever told them that, but it was like my secret excuse to kind of in my life just when I was adjusting to the move, like, because I wasn't sure that they're gonna, you know, like lose touch or not. They didn't, spoiler alert, but I always have that fear in the back of my head. But yeah, half that, half spite. Yeah. That's kind of a silly answer.
So that's such a like emotional, like I almost like that's just, I don't know. I am a crybaby too, but like I just about it.
I'm like, well, I just need a space where I can, you know, do dumb stuff with my friends and not get judged for it. And then I did a couple interviews with people at the start, but like one of them was my cousin who was doing the tour for Mean Girls Broadway. And so I'm like, hey, Megan, we're related. Do you want to come on my show and let's talk about Gretchen Wieners?
Sounds like there's a lot of agency here being exercised, right? Like, we're taking your voice back. What advice you'd give to people who are struggling with that? Because we have a lot of students who do not want to put themselves out there. Like, they really struggle with putting themselves out there in all sorts of ways, not just for a podcast, but other things too.
You know, that's a great question. I'm like so self-conscious about everything. So I kind of surprise myself sometimes. I mentioned earlier that I'm like starting to integrate video, but I actually decided on a podcast rather than a YouTube channel, because I'm like, I don't want people to look at me. I don't want to have to, you know, like dress up and stuff before I record every single thing. So I'm still kind of getting used to like seeing myself, and also even like editing, and I have to like listen to myself. So, like, you know, if you stutter or you're like, oh man, why did I say that? And then you have to listen to it over and over again. But in terms of like yourself out there. I think that's something that it's taken me like over 20 years to learn. It's taken me so long and so much like trial and error and falling and having to get back up. But I think I've finally gotten to a place where I kind of like care what people think, but I also don't. Like if you are someone who is important to me and you play like an integral part in my life, you care a whole lot what you think about me and what you think of what I'm doing. And even if you're a stranger, of course, I want you to think that I'm nice and friendly and, not a bad person. But at the same time, I have found a lot of comfort in comfortable with who I am as a person in like various different aspects, whether it's my interests, my hobbies, how I look, how I dress, how I act, whatever. To the point that it's like, if you don't like it, it's okay. People that do like it are my people, and I think I will attract them by existing without having to try. And it's so much nicer to not care as much what people think of you. And so I'm still a little bit scared because, if something ever goes viral, there's always people that are like, oh my God, why did you say that? Or like, haha, you're ugly, or I don't know, like whatever. And I'm like, obviously I'll read that and be like, I don't think I'm like super ugly. Oh my God. But like, it's like whatever. It's like one person on the internet, and low key, in my opinion, hot take also, I think haters mean that you've made it. But anyways, I think it's an internal journey. I think you have to be comfortable and make peace with yourself in order to fully present yourself, and it's still vulnerable. It's still a very vulnerable thing to put your whole self out there, because if someone rejects you and you're being fully yourself, that's going to hurt way more than if you're being someone fake. But I promise, if you do it, high risk, high reward, right? Like I think you'll find good people and good things will come to you that you want to attract.
I love that so much. That's how I feel, because like I really want to get into sports broadcasting, and like that's what my podcast is about. Girl, like I am like I started a podcast, and it's very much like seeing like I'm like I can do this, and then I get on camera and like I'm instantly like, what if I sound stupid? What if I say the wrong thing? Like what if I make a mistake? But that's what it's all about, is like being authentic and being yourself and learning as you go also. So it's still hard. Like I do get in front of that camera and I'm like, no, restart. Or like
literally same.
Yeah, or like just keep going and you can just edit it out later.
No, I mean, I can't even pretend like I don't do the exact same thing. Like I text my guy in the chair, Diego. I text him every single time I have to record the intro outro, and it's just videos over and over of me being like, hi guys, I know that's bad, I hate that. And it's like it's so and I have to look at myself while I'm doing it.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. I don't look at the script. I want to make sure I'm looking at the camera, or like what if I repeat myself or stutter, and it's just like, and then you get like, and then it just like shrinks you, and it's like, okay, just don't, just you got this, you can do it.
It's a total thought spiral for sure.
Yeah.
I wanted to call attention to this real quick. Are there any ones like that you want us to start with? If we're just coming to your channel for the first time, I just clicked on popular and see your numbers here. But is there something here that you would like us to start with? And it doesn't have to be the latest or the most popular. Where would you like someone to start if they could choose any of these?
Well, okay, so the start for me, when I started doing interviews, and it's very chaotic and it's not safe for work content necessarily, but the interview with Barnes Courtney and his band was one that I got to go backstage on his tour bus and interview all of them at the same time. And like I mentioned, this guy is like all over the place, and it is just so crazy chaotic.
What number is that?
It's 51.
Okay, we'll drop this in the chat so people can listen.
And the quality on this one's not like great, because this is when the setup was before I had those mics. So it was my laptop and that's it. You'll have to forgive the bad quality, but they only go uphill from there, I promise.
Thank you so much for sharing and for, telling us about your journey. Did you have any parting final thoughts?
I mean, I just think if you guys have any dream whatsoever, you're like, now this might be kind of lofty. Honestly, write it down, leave it somewhere, then do it anyways. And you're going to feel so cool You go back and you look at that paper of like, oh, I think that I want to like maybe do this. And you're going to be like, I did that. I've done it. And it's going to be so cool. Like, I fully believe in all of you to do whatever you want to do. And if you do, tell me about it. DM me. I want to hear about it.
Awesome. Everybody unmute at the same time and clap. See if it works. Yay!